had one eye open, watch, why? How do you know it's dangerous? Or how is it dangerous? Or something like that.
We're older than you. We know that it's bad.
Okay. So that's just that's a certain kind of, I don't know, that even gets into kind of an intimidation factor implied. Another way that a teacher could respond would be, cholesterol has been studied and it was determined that it's dangerous, and here is a report, here's a booklet on it, or here's a chapter, and jump ahead to chapter 9 and you can read 7 pages about how it's dangerous and some research that was done, and here's a film, or we'll watch a film about it next week. So it could be that the subject matter inquiry or the curiosity of the student is actually included into the educational process. So you guys recognize that's possible, at least in some classroom somewhere, some amount of that would happen, right? So you take the child who's super curious about cholesterol, and they get all this information, they watch a film about it, they watch a YouTube, they do a report, and then they have, I've got a couple questions though. I don't know that the average third grader would, but let's say that they have a couple questions and they bring up something that isn't part of the teacher's, test. The teacher knows on the test at the end of the year, you've got to say cholesterol is poisonous, and that's what everybody needs to say. So is the teacher going to be really interested in exploring research that, or doing a meta-analysis of the research of cholesterol? I think you guys know my terminology. Is the average teacher under collegiate level going to be are they even going to know what I just said? Are they going to be even open to researching the research on cholesterol? In general,
in most cases, just learn the material.
No way.
Learn what we teach you.
Yeah, we just learn what we teach you. We're not interested in teaching you the scientific method and having you do it, to challenge our sacred presumptions or our familiar presumptions. They're going to have people study, we're going to take you into a physics class and then you're going to study dark matter. Are you coming right back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine if a child has epilepsy and they're on a ketogenic diet for the epilepsy, and then they're told cholesterol is bad, well, that's not all they're allowed to eat.
Right. Now you get into some of the implications, right? So for that child, they're taught things about saturated fat, or they're taught things about carbohydrates, and then you can eventually imagine something like that involving parents and involving quite a bit of review where you actually have some possible revision to a curriculum. So the parents, the realm of private interaction, eventually can lead the curriculum that shows up in the public schools. Individuals that have experimented with things. If somebody says, cancer is not curable or autism is not curable or whatever they say, someone else can say, well, actually, my little sister used to have that and doesn't anymore. I've got pictures of her. Do you want to see? Or I've got video of it. As time goes on, in some classrooms, in some settings, there will be receptivity and room and interest amongst the teachers or the administrators to review the accuracy of some of the points of the curriculum. But in general, the authority tells you what's important, and they tell you what's true, and then you repeat that back to them, and that is the typical process of the typical school. We also see that in churches and in jobs and other situations. I'm just focusing on school for convenience. Anybody else want to comment?
I had middle school. It was a religious school, and we had to read commentary on the Bible and stuff, and there was some room for discussion.
Okay.
Because not all the commentators had the same opinions about what was written.
And there are classes where it's specifically designed to have discussion, right? So there's certain classes, I assume everybody's had a class, where everybody reads something, or through whatever other setup, people are sharing a topic and there's an actual discussion, and it may be pretty open. You know, I remember being in a humanities class where we were told this is what you're going to talk about, but as long as you're on the subject of, you know, what's your favorite classical novel that you read in high school and why, like that would be something that a professor at college might say to us to help us start to, you know, share and hear each other's opinions and get to know each other. It's kind of like, you know, a icebreaker kind of a practice, but it also could be useful for the teacher to get to know the students and to just get people interested and to get, you know, even healthy debates. Anybody want to comment on that?
We have debates in high school. It forums topics about, you know, different world things that were going on, be it the Olympics or, you know, things going on in different governments around the world and stuff. And I like forum. We have a forum every week, and that was a good one.
So in high school you had a forum where everybody could discuss topics, but was it
Yeah, like what?
was it moderated or wide open?
Yeah, it was moderated, but it'd be like the whole. It was a small high school, and like the whole high school, like you know, all the kids would be there, and we discussed world topics.
Oh, the whole school?
That one was a European style school, and so even though it was in America, they weren't really. I don't know. People weren't 100% rooting for America. Usually they saw things more European way.
Okay.
And that was strange for me because like here we are in America, and you know, and we might like be rooting for Russia to win in the Olympics instead of the U.S. or Germany or whoever, you know. And I thought that was kind of strange.
Okay, so we would anticipate in the U.S. that everything would be ethnocentric or biased in favor of U.S. Or if you're in Georgia, that everything's going to be, you know, emphasizing how it relates to Georgia. You have a subject of mathematics or whatever, they can still say, well, here's how Georgia Institute of Technology right down the street, and here's a professor from there, and he did this research, and they're going to emphasize it because of that local or regional issue. I wondered, Rose, how many people were in those forums? Like, how many students?
About 80 students.
Okay, 80 students at once had a discussion on political topics, so that is quite unusual in a school setting. How long did that session last?
I don't really remember. It might have been about 2 hours.
Okay, a couple hours, so it's like not 20 minutes, and it's not 6 hours, but, you know, that's an interesting thing. So, I actually was reminded of Facebook as we were talking about political discussions and just in general, but people will, you know, say, here's what's important to me, or here's what really I find infuriating or I find terrifying, and, you know, people can share. And there's certainly something healthy about, there can be something really healthy about us sharing. So if I'm curious about the dangers of international environmental pollution, like what Canada or Mexico or Japan does, and how does that influence Oklahoma or whatever. You know, there's a variety of issues that I could be curious about, and that also could be issues that I could take. If I'm saying, like, if I was in high school, if I was curious about that, I could end up studying it in college. I could end up working in that field. So it's completely understandable that there would be some tracking, like you're gonna have some pre-existing tracks, and then the students are going to be guided onto, or have the option of choosing one of a limited number of tracks. And there might be a liberal arts track, or a, you know, engineering and applied science track, or whatever. So there's a few different tracks, kind of like charter schools and magnet schools will have a certain specific emphasis. So some amount of tracking is like reasonable at some grade level. Whatever level it starts at and however it works, it's understandable. So we've got curiosity. We've got curiosity influenced by curriculum, and then also by social validation. We haven't really talked about that a lot, but what other students or what other people show interest in, obviously, or what then obviously that's going to be encouraged, and things that other people show really concern about. Like if your son, in Rose's case, writes about the teacher being really scary, that kind of creativity could be discouraged, or it could be said, that's fine, you get an A for the assignment, but we're not going to have you read it out loud to the class. Or I don't know what happened, but you can't, you get credit for it, but your book report is too inflammatory. We're not going to be able to get to it today, and it's the last day of the school year, so you just get an A, we're done, bye. So you could imagine a teacher that has 25 students or whatever, and there's certain subject matter that they're going to know is off subject, is inflammatory, is disruptive, and certain subject matter that they know is going to be, or they can expect is going to be really engaging, and it's going to really be provocative. So, as far as curiosity being rewarded, generally speaking, there is an outlet for people who are smart and do good at academics if they're obedient and they're capable. Obedient, like they provide back to the teacher what the teacher says is the right answer. Someone like that eventually can be encouraged in their curiosity, and they can go into higher levels of education, or even on their own at home, and during high school, whatever, they can read in the Bible and have debates with their friends, or they can study physiology. And I don't know how realistic it is for a high school student to do tests on cholesterol, but they can research cholesterol on the internet. They can see other research that other people have done, read books that other people have written, and see, maybe they can see some live video of cholesterol in a electron microscope video or something, and they're showing the molecule of cholesterol getting assembled in the liver, and then the molecule of cholesterol gets converted into vitamin D, and then some shark comes and eats the pig that was converting all that cholesterol and doing all that stuff. So there's this vitamin D that the shark eats, and it gets converted back into cholesterol, and then the shark converts that cholesterol into estrogen or whatever. Like, I'm making this up. This isn't scientifically accurate, but it's close. And the point is, it's completely outside of the range of what's taught, to my knowledge, about cholesterol. We're in a third grade class, we don't necessarily know what a molecule is. So for a student to relate to the word cholesterol as a thing that's dangerous, it's like Siamese food is too hot, it's bad, it's dangerous, it's wrong, or whatever kind of super simplistic interpretation people could have. So cholesterol is dangerous, it's bad, or whatever they're taught. Now, do kids know what cholesterol is? When they learn that it's bad, do they know what it is? Do you guys, anybody know the chemical formula for cholesterol? How many hydrogens and how many oxygens? Did you ever learn? Maybe, but you forgot, right? Unless somebody in here is in biochem or something.
I had an idea what the texture might be, because my aunt was a hairdresser, and she used to use a conditioner on my hair called cholesterol, and it was like thick, creamy stuff,
Okay.
I know cholesterol is actually waxy, but
Okay.
Good idea.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
So in that case, a teacher probably could bring a chunk of something and say, "This is cholesterol. Put it in your hand. Feel it. This is the kind of thing we're talking about." That would be more specific than what I recall happening in my science classrooms in school, but it's still not all that useful. Like, the basic thing is, why is it important to learn what dietary things to eat and not eat? A lot of what goes on in my sense in schools is they're justifying their own policies. So if the school lunch is high carb, low fat, no cholesterol, high sugar, and all these things, then what do you learn in school? Well, it could be that there is a bias towards, junk's food is fine, sodas are fine. What's really important is that you exercise and that you don't eat any cholesterol, because that'll kill you. If you eat a lot of eggs, you do know that always results in death, right? And so we get certain words get demonized. And my assertion is that when I first learned cholesterol is bad, I had no idea what cholesterol is. I just know it's in eggs. I don't know what it is. What is cholesterol? Do you guys even really know what it is? What type of a chemical is it? If I ask questions like that, is that familiar?
Yeah, my family, I guess, was backwards. Other families, they used to eat, usually cold cereals for breakfast and school days, and we'd always have eggs. And my mother would want me to have whole milk also. I don't think we were afraid of cholesterol in my family, but I think the trigger thing, the thing that was bad was drugs. I remember my mother telling me when I was very young that drugs are bad, never do them. And I didn't even know what they were.
Okay.
And I just had to accept that they were bad.
Yeah, so you think drugs are bad. All of them? Which ones are drugs? What's the definition of drugs? So it's an interesting thing.
I asked my mother what a drug is, because I had no idea, and I think she said, marijuana is a drug. I said, okay, so I should never do that. If I want to be a good girl, I won't do that.
And did you know what marijuana was, or did you ask, well, what's that?
I had no idea.
Right. So she said, well...
It might be like aspirin or something.
Right.
I didn't know.
Drugs are bad. What are drugs? Marijuana is a drug, so marijuana is bad. Yeah. What is marijuana? It's a drug. Sometimes that's as intelligent as the school system's presentation is too. And I don't mean to make fun of your mom or that issue. Even cholesterol, again, isn't really that big a deal to me, but it's so glaringly odd to me from a point of curiosity and calm to think, how could a substance that is produced in such quantity by so many organisms like cholesterol, why could that be how could that be presented? I don't mean politically how, I mean isn't it shocking that people didn't go, that's stupid, or that's, why wasn't there more